Coming back. Now, this is an important question. This is an important question. For the rest of this conference, when you introduce yourself to each other, go up and say, "Hi, I'm so-and-so from so-and-so. What's yours?" What's your best idea? You have had so much experience, there's enough wisdom in this room to make everybody here rich 2 or 3 times over. Isn't that true? So therefore, one of the best things... All right. One of the kindest and most generous things you can do is to share your ideas with other people. So whenever you get into a conversation, say, "What's yours? What's yours?" And this will make a wonderful mastermind conversation. Every time you meet with 2 or 3 people, say, "What's yours?" and share ideas. And write these ideas down. As Jim says, write them down. Don't let them fly away. And we were talking a little bit earlier about the qualities of success. What they found at the University of Pennsylvania is that the #1 quality of success, they did the psychographic and demographic tests on these people. They found the #1 quality that the top 10% of people had was optimism. As Chris was talking earlier, they're optimistic. They have a positive, constructive attitude toward life. Does it mean they don't get beaten down and make mistakes and fall down and get disappointed and so on? Of course they do, but they bounce back. The major test of how healthy you are as a person is not whether you get knocked down, but how quickly you bounce back, how quickly you recover. If you do a stress test in medicine, what they do is they do a stress test to test your system. The critical question is how quickly do you respond? How quickly do you come back to where you were before? So optimism, we find, is the mark of mental fitness, and mental fitness is like physical fitness. You develop mental fitness by doing mental fitness exercises. And I want to give you the 4 critical exercises for optimists. These are the 4 ways that optimists think that separate them from people who are average or who are pessimistic. Remember, the great majority of people are not particularly positive or optimistic, but all leaders are. So #1 is top people think and talk about what they want most of the time. Whenever you find yourself getting upset, say, "Wait a minute, I'm going to think and talk about what I want." Your conscious mind can only hold one thought at a time, either a positive thought or a negative thought. If you discipline yourself to think about what you want and how to get it, you push out all negative thoughts for that moment. If you keep doing something repeatedly over and over again, what do you eventually develop? You develop a habit. You know, Donna talked about success habits. It's so important. If you force yourself to think about what you want and how to get it, eventually you get up in the morning, the first thing you think about is what you want and how to get it. Okay? The second way that you become an optimist is you look for the good in every situation and in every person. You always look for the good. Something goes wrong, look for the good. Your house burns down. Well, that's good. We needed a house closer to work anyway. Your car gets stolen. Well, that's good. The ashtrays were full. You know? You lost your job. Well, that's good. We didn't like the job anyway. So, in other words, look for something good in every situation. Now, here's the most remarkable thing. If you look for something good, you'll always find it. You'll always find something good. You find what you're looking for. If you're looking for the problem or the flaw, then you'll find it. If you're looking for something good, you'll find it. Question, does anybody here have a light with a dimmer switch on it at home? Say yes. It's required by law to have dimmer switches in your house. Electrical union. Okay. Now, a dimmer switch has a very interesting parallel. With a dimmer switch, it's controlled manually. You either turn it or move it up or down, and when it's on full, it's bright, and when it's down, it's dark. There's a dimmer switch on your brain as well. Only the dimmer switch on your brain is controlled by your thoughts. And when your thoughts are really positive, your dimmer switch is on full. You're positive, you're creative, you're high energy, you feel good about yourself. In other words, you're positive, you're the best person you could possibly be when your dimmer switch is on full. When your dimmer switch is down low, your personality is darkened, you're angry, you're worried, you're fearful, you're negative, you're pessimistic, you're skeptical, you run for public office and talk about how terrible America is. Okay. But the fact is that your dimmer switch is controlled by the thoughts that you think at any given moment. And if you think about what you want and how to get it, your dimmer switch goes on full. And you have all of your energy available to you. When you think and look for the good in a situation, a difficult situation, you say, that's good. What happens is your dimmer switch goes on full. Now, the third thing you do is you look for the valuable lesson in every setback or difficulty. Napoleon Hill, in his 22-year study of 500 of the most successful people America ever produced, found that one of the qualities they had in common was they always looked for the valuable lesson in every setback or difficulty. Quick question, does anybody here have any problems? Good. Problems are a sign of life and activity. There's only one group of people in our society that has no problems, and they're all in the cemetery. They have no relationship problems, no money problems, no health problems. So if you are having problems, it's a sign of life. All right, so you have problems. Problems I have found in life are like stacks of dinner plates. And they're stacked up, and some are low down in your hierarchy of concern, and some are higher. But there's always one problem on top. Sort of like a law of priority. There's always one problem that causes you more concern or worry than anything else. This is the one that you can think of. Usually it comes with hair on top. Although there are some exceptions in this room. So I want you to take as an exercise, this is very important, by the way, and this is a go-forward exercise for you and your family and other people for the rest of your life. I want you to take the biggest problem you have in life and imagine that this problem has been sent to you containing a lesson. My friend Norman Vincent Peale used to say, when God wants to send you a gift, he wraps it up in a problem. When he wants to send you a big gift, he wraps it up in a big problem. Most people get so preoccupied with the wrapping, they don't look for the gift. The gift is the lesson. And my promise to you is that every problem you'll ever have contains a lesson that is in most cases more valuable than the problem itself. In fact, the lesson may be what you need to learn to become rich and happy. It's almost as if there's a great power in the universe that wants you to be a big success, wants you to be happy and prosperous, but this power knows you can only achieve it if you learn the lessons necessary on the way. So at the exact right time, this power will send you the lesson wrapped up in a problem. Your job of the superior person, is to look into it and say, what am I meant to learn from this problem? What am I meant to learn, and what else am I meant to learn? And what else am I meant to learn? Keep drilling down, because sometimes one big problem contains a whole series of lessons that will profoundly change your life if you can recognize the problems. And as Donna said, by the way, if you don't recognize the solution within the problem, it'll come around again, only this time it'll be more expensive. And if you don't get the lesson then, it'll come around again. This great power will keep sending you the lesson until you get it. And then once you pass that, you go to the next lesson and you have the next problem. So your job is to say, what am I meant to learn from this situation? And my promise to you is you'll always find a lesson, and while you're looking for the lesson, your dimmer switch will be on full. You'll be positive, you'll be optimistic, you'll be forward-thinking, you'll be more creative, you'll be more relaxed, you'll be more open, you'll be the best person you can possibly be. Now, if you want to be a great help to other people, when they are talking about their lives, say, what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Help your children, help your staff. When they have a problem, say, what's good in this? Because there's always something good comes from every difficulty. What's the lesson that you're meant to learn from this? You help them to think creatively and positively and optimistically as well until it becomes a habit for them as well. Remember the old saying, you become what you teach. You learn what you teach. So therefore, when you teach these principles to others who can benefit from them, you actually internalize them more and more yourself until they become an automatic part of the way that you deal with life. The fourth key to optimism is to feed your mind continually. Come to courses like this, listen to audio programs, read the books, talk to positive people. Keep feeding your mind. Just like if you wanted to have a healthy body, you'd eat really nutritious foods. If you want to have a healthy mind, take in positive, nutritious, what Jim calls mental protein rather than mental candy. All right? Now, what we have found is that optimists have three remarkable qualities. Optimists, by the way, start off with an unrealistic expectation of success. What does this mean? That means they really expect to be successful in advance. They expect that everything that happens is positive in some way. They expect that every setback contains a lesson. They expect to be wealthy. An attitude of positive self-expectancy, expecting to be successful well in advance of success, improves your attitude, puts your dimmer switch on full, makes you more positive and creative, makes you more resilient to difficulties. You just keep getting up and you keep going like the Energizer Bunny. You just keep going and going and going. So there's three qualities that optimists have. Number one is they learn more things. And you know, we say that in our modern world, cause and effect means learn and do. They learn more things. As a result, they have more knowledge, more information, more insights, more skills, more ability to deal with our world today. Number two is they try more things. Now, I told you that I didn't graduate from high school, but in my 30s, I went to university and got a business degree. And in taking a business degree, you have to take a course called probability theory. Did anybody ever take probability theory? It's a terrible course, isn't it? It's awful, awful course. And the only one thing you learn from probability theory in retrospect is that there's a probability that everything will happen. And that these probabilities, is that true? That these probabilities can be calculated by a series of very, very sophisticated ways. All of life insurance is based on probability. All the stock market, the world of finance, probability is a major, major factor in life, and there's some great theories for probability theory, for predicting probabilities. So here's, if I can flip a coin, the probability that it will come down heads or tails is what? It's 50%. 50-50 no matter how many times you flip the coin. The probability never changes. Your job in life is to increase the probabilities of success. Now, how do you increase the probabilities of success? Number one is you learn more things, so you have more understanding. And number two, you try more things. And if I was to tell you the keys to success, you'll find that all successful people try more things. And is there any guarantee that you will be successful? No. You will fail more times than you succeed, but if you try more things, it's like throwing darts at the dartboard. If you keep throwing darts over and over again, even if you're a complete idiot, what must you eventually hit? You must eventually hit a bullseye, and that's why you meet complete idiots who are rich, is they just kept throwing darts and they hit a bullseye. You know that story about the guys get together at the high school reunion after 20 years and the dumbest guy in the class is richer than all of them put together? And they said, how on earth could you do this? I mean, you weren't very much of a student. He said, well, I found this manufacturer that sold stuff for $1, and I could import it and sell it for $3 and make a profit. He said, it's amazing what you can do on 3% profit. Anyway, the third quality is that they persist longer. Now, all that you will ever learn from me and Jim and Donna and Dennis and everyone and Charlie is the same things. Learn more things, read, listen to audio programs, go to courses, try more things as a result of what you learn, take action, and then persist longer. And if you'll do that, your success is guaranteed. You'll find that every single person who is successful learned more things, tried more things, persisted until they succeeded. And every person who's a failure didn't. It's really, really simple. And what keeps you doing this is optimism. It's an attitude that no matter what happens, I will eventually succeed. It's only a matter of time. It doesn't matter what's going on now. If I just keep trying more things and persisting longer, I will succeed. And by gum, that becomes your fact. That becomes the fact of life. So I want to give you a quick exercise. I want you to take a piece of paper and I want you to write down the answer to this question. What are your 3 most important goals in life right now? What are your 3 most important goals in life right now? You have 30 seconds, so write quickly. If you can't think of an answer, write money, money, money. 20 seconds left. Write quickly. 3 most important goals in life right now. 15 seconds. Write quickly. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. Okay. This is called the quick list method, by the way. You can use this for the rest of your life. And what we have found is that if you only have 30 seconds to write the answer to this question, your answers will be as accurate as if you had 30 minutes or 3 hours. You can ask your spouse, honey, what are your 3 most important goals in life right now? And then compare them with yours and be prepared for a fun conversation. But ask your kids, son, daughter, what are your 3 most important goals in life right now? In our advanced coaching programs, we help people do this in every part of their lives. Now let me see if I can guess your 3 most important goals. I was in Las Vegas recently and I learned this trick on how you can read the minds of audiences. And one of the guys showed me how, and I see if I remember how it works, okay? Let's see, you tune in. You may have to tune in. Okay, wait, rub your hands together. You have to tune in. Okay, it's coming clear. Shh. Okay, now I know what your 3 goals are. They were a financial goal, a relationship goal, and a health goal. How we do? Pretty good, huh? And for some people say, no, that's not what I wrote. Well, we'll get you some counseling later. That's what, that's what Jim Rohn coaching is for people, But the fact is, because those are the 3 critical parts of your life, your health, your finances, and your relationships, those will be your goals. And I'll even guarantee what your goals are. Make more money, lose weight, become fitter, spend more time with the people you love. How's that? We doing pretty good there? So in other words, these are your goals. Now, here is your homework assignment. Your homework assignment is for the next 24 hours, think and talk about those 3 goals. Think and talk about those 3 goals, and the only question you ask is, how? How do I achieve them? Not whether they're achievable. We'll talk about how we firm them up a little bit in a couple of minutes, but how do we achieve them? And from now on, think and talk about what you want and how to get it. Whenever you want to help someone else, help them think and talk about what they want and how to get it. Help them look for the good in every situation. Help them seek the valuable lesson in every problem that they have. Keep feeding your mind with positive stuff so you keep getting better and better. I've got to tell you a quick story. Ole and Sven, they're up in Minnesota. They shoot a deer. They're dragging the deer back to the truck by the tail, and they keep slipping and losing their balance. And a farmer comes along and says, "Boys, what are you doing?" He says, "Well, we're dragging the deer back to the truck." He said, "Well, boys, you're not supposed to drag a deer by the tail. That's awkward. God's provided that antler with that deer with handles for dragging. They're called antlers. You're supposed to drag a deer by the antlers." He said, "Well, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much, sir." So they went around. They started dragging the deer by the antlers, and they're whipping along. And after about 5 minutes, Ole says to Sven, "Sven, the farmer was right. It'd go a lot easier by the antlers." He said, "Yeah, Ole, but we're getting further and further from the truck." The world is full of people who are pulling the easy way. They're doing what is fun and easy and watching television, having a good time, but they're getting further and further from the truck of their true goals, their true objectives, their true destination. Isn't that right? Say yes. Yes. Be back in 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Once upon a time, there was a dinner party that took place in Memphis, Tennessee. I was speaking for a large national corporation, a franchise organization where you could buy a franchise, and if you were successful, you could buy another franchise and so on. And I was the keynote speaker, so they had me sitting next to a very nice couple. This couple, it turned out, had become millionaires. And the story that they told me was very interesting because they were the top people in the organization. And this is a true story, they had, he had been a fireman, she had been a housewife. They lived in a small 1,100 square foot house, 2 bedrooms, they had 2 kids in 1 room, and them in another room, and he was a fireman, and he made enough, and they made a living, and she stayed at home, and they worked through their teens and then their 20s and into their 30s, but they didn't have any real concern, they told me, because as soon as Aunt Martha died, everything would be okay. You see, they had an Aunt Martha who was very wealthy. And Aunt Martha had a husband in her wealth, and Aunt Martha had come over to their home and had dinner with them and Christmas and Easter and so on. And there were other brothers and sisters in the family. But Aunt Martha had confided to them that when she does pass on someday, that everything she has would be left to them. So they knew that when Aunt Martha died, they'd be rich. So he kept on working away, him at his job, union fireman job, not very happy. They didn't have much money. For them, a big night out was Arby's, and that was only once a month. But they didn't have to worry because when Aunt Martha died, perished the thought, but when Aunt Martha passed on, they would be rich. Year after year went by, into their 20s, into their 30s, and Aunt Martha looked remarkably healthy. And they gave her gifts and sent her cards, and all the kids wrote letters to her, and they had her over for meals and so on, and they treated her very, very well. But you know, perish the thought, but you know, they're now in their 30s, and Aunt Martha is still just trucking away. She's in her 60s or 70s, and one day he looked at her across the table, and she looked back at him, and she said, women are wise, and she said, what if Aunt Martha lives another 20 years? There's longevity in the family. Are we going to be sitting here at this Formica kitchen table worried about money for 20 years waiting for Aunt Martha to die? And it hit him and it hit her, and they got so, it's almost like a flashbulb went off. They said no. And they said, then let's start doing something. Let's imagine Aunt Martha's going to live forever. If Aunt Martha's going to live forever, that is different. So they decided, they began exploring. He began working for what was turned out to be a janitorial service in the evening. Then he bought a franchise from ServPro, and he built the franchise up, and he found he had a natural knack for it. And so he built another franchise, and he called it. Pretty soon, he was running it. His wife was running it out of the house. Pretty soon, after 2 or 3 years, he quit his union job, began working it full time, built up a whole series of franchises. He was a millionaire. He was a great success. When he went into that organization, they did everything but throw flowers in his path. He was a symbol of what was possible for an average person to create a wonderful business. He and his wife were confident. They were well dressed. They were warm, friendly. Everybody liked them, and so on. And they said, and if we had not made that decision across that kitchen table, we'd still be there in that little crummy house. I said, and What's the rest of the story? The rest of the story was that Aunt Martha lived another 20 years. And when she died, all the other members of the family, the brothers and sisters on both sides, they'd all been waiting for Aunt Martha to die. And when they got there to the reading of the will, and they were talking, all the others were confident. They were there, they didn't care, they were wealthy. All the others were confident because Aunt Martha, turned out, had promised every one of them that they were her favorite, and she was leaving all her money to them. And when they read the will, Aunt Martha was penniless. She had no money at all. She'd been broke for years and living off the good graces of her relatives by telling them she was going to leave all her money to them. Now, there's a reason that I tell you the story, aside from the fact that it's true, is what is your Aunt Martha? You know, what are you waiting for to happen before you go for it? You know that in life, successful people just commit. Has anybody played Texas Hold'em? You could admit it. Okay. In Texas Hold'em, they have, and by the way, it's a remarkable game because there's something in there that appeals to the American imagination, is you reach a point where you're down to the point where you cannot raise, you cannot bet, and you have to go all in. If you don't go all in and take a chance of losing it all, you'll be wiped out. Every so often you see a person who wins because they went all in with weak cards. Have you seen that on the World Championships of Poker? You push all the money in. Nobody can bet higher than your whole pot, but if you lose, you're finished. In life, we have to go all in at times. At certain times in life, we have to do our research, do our homework, and then go all in. We have to stop waiting for Aunt Martha to die. I have a good friend. I had talked with him just the other day. He's an accountant. He came from a working class family. His father was a butcher. When he grew up in his late teens, his father got him into the butchers union, the meat cutters union, and he went off and started working summers as a meat cutter, learning how to cut meat. His father wanted him to be a butcher as well. Well, after a summer of cutting meat, he decided he didn't like this. He decided he wanted to continue his education. Didn't have any money, so he went to community college. This is in San Diego. Went to community college. In community college, he took a couple of business courses and accounting courses, developed a real love for accounting. And as Donna was saying earlier, follow the area that you really like. He got into accounting, and he worked hard, and when he got out of school, when he got his degree, he got a job with a small accounting firm, and then another accounting firm. He ended up working with Price Waterhouse. And at Price Waterhouse, he was doing real well, and one of his partners was a woman who was also an accountant, also came from an average family, and they started talking about forming their own firm. They said Price Waterhouse only likes to work with big companies, and there's a whole unserved market of small and middle-sized companies that need accounting services that can't afford to pay the big bucks. They could start a firm, and they could offer services, and by hiring accountants out of school at low levels, they could provide the same quality of services that they learned how to provide at Price Waterhouse. They put together a business plan, they knew how to do that, and a market plan, and a sales plan, and an organization plan, and a financial plan. And they put it all together, and they're going to start their own company. And at the last minute, he said, I chickened out. He said, I was so concerned about security. My father had always told me, security is everything. Get a job, keep the job, be secure, don't take a chance. He said, so I chickened out. And we separated. She said, well, I'm going to do it anyway. We've done all the planning, the market is there. And she walked out, and she rolled the dice, and she went all in. And she started her own accounting firm. He said he had lunch with her 2 weeks ago. She's now about 45, as he is. She has an accounting firm with 34 staff. She's worth about $4 million. She lives in a beautiful home with beautiful children. She's married extremely well. He said, all the equity I own in my life, in my working life, is what's in my home, is the increase in value in my home. He said, by deciding not to get into my own business, he said, I decided to stay broke all my adult life. The worst mistake I ever made, because I was afraid to take a risk. I was waiting for some Aunt Martha to die. Now, there's only three ways that you and I are going to get out of this life financially independent. One is you're going to win the lottery. And 64% of Americans believe that the only way they're going to achieve financial independence is if they somehow win the lottery. If you ever, one of the things that I am totally opposed to, by the way, philosophically, is gambling. I'm totally opposed to gambling because everybody who gambles loses. If you ever want to have a real good look at gambling, watch the movie Casino with Robert De Niro and how they talk about the suckers. And these people, the longer they keep them here, the more guaranteed they'll walk away with nothing. And that every single gambler leaves with nothing. It's only a matter of time. I am totally opposed to Indian casinos. throughout this state, because what they do is they suck off the hard work of young men and women. They take food off the trays, and they destroy the long-term future of people who invest that discretionary funds, or if you like, gamble it away, and don't have it to do something else with. So you can win the lottery. Now your chance to win the lottery about 11 million to 1, the equivalent of being struck by lightning twice in the same place 2 years apart. In other words, you're never going to win the lottery. The lottery is called the stupidity tax. It's the only tax you pay voluntarily. Okay? If you do invest in the lottery, they don't even give you the money if you win. Have you noticed that? First of all, they lop off 50% in taxes, then they give you it spread over 20 years. Everybody know what I'm talking about? If a private company set up a lottery like that, they'd all be put in prison. Okay? They consider that to be a great act of skullduggery and embezzlement of the public, and the government does it to us all the time. So you're not going to win the lottery, all right? Number two is somebody could die, Aunt Martha, somewhere. Somebody relative that you don't know of, somewhere on the far side of the world, could die and leave you a pile of money. Okay? But I'm here to tell you, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad tidings, it ain't going to happen. There is no long-lost rich relative that's going to leave you a lot of money. So the only other way you can do it is by earning it yourself. Right? Are you with me so far? Say yes. Okay, so the only question is what? The only question is how? How do we earn it ourselves? Well, there are several steps that we can take. Now, we don't have enough time to go into great depth in the things I've talked about, so I'm going to give you some key principles that are important. W. Clement Stone, who was actually the person who funded and underwrote Napoleon Hill, W. Clement Stone, who started as a 12-year-old boy selling papers on the streets of Chicago, fatherless, and built an $800 million fortune, just died a couple of years ago. He lived forever. A lot of people waiting for him to die. He lived to about 102. He outlived all the people waiting for him to die. Anyway, he said in one of his most profound observations, he said, if you cannot save money, then the seeds of greatness are not in you. If you cannot save money, the seeds of greatness are not in you. Now, one of the great truths of today is that all the answers have been found. If you want to become a millionaire, you can become a millionaire. If you want to become a millionaire, you must decide to become a millionaire. I was talking to somebody recently who was in college with this guy who never got very good grades. And he was telling me this story. It's really interesting. Again, it was 15, 20 years ago. This guy never got very good grades. And he said, well, why are you here? He said, well, I want to make a lot of money. He said, well, how are you going to do that? And he said, I have no idea. He said, but by gum, I want to make a lot of money when I leave school. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a lot of money. And I have no idea how I'm going to do it. Today, this guy owns about 12 businesses. He's worth millions of dollars. He said he had that one blazing idea when he was in school he was going to make a lot of money. And if your goal is to make a lot of money, and that becomes your goal, then you will make a lot of money. But if you have a whole bunch of other goals, it's like shooting a shotgun. If you had a door right here and you shot a double-barreled shotgun at the door, blam, what would happen? You'd blow it off its hinges. I mean, that's what the SWAT teams use to knock doors off their hinges. If you put that same door on the side of a field, on the other side of a field, leaning against a fence, and you fired a shotgun at it, what would happen? Well, the expression they use is pepper spray. It would feel like pepper spray, like somebody had thrown a bunch of peppercorns at it, because traveling across the field, the buckshot would spread and hit the wind and eventually dissipate and lose its energy, and whatever pellets arrived there would have no force at all. But what if you took a rifle, and you aimed it at that door on the other side of a field? What would happen? Blam! It knocked the door down. Why? It's because a rifle is absolutely focused. So what we know is that the key to success is, first of all, you have to know exactly what you want, and then second of all, you have to focus and concentrate. You have to focus and concentrate. I have found that the power of clarity is being absolutely clear about the fact that you want to make a lot of money and become financially independent. Does this mean that you become like Scrooge McDuck or like a miser or somebody who's a penny pincher? No. As a matter of fact, you find that most self-made millionaires, their greatest pride in life is their family. Their greatest source of expenditure is on their spouse and on their children. The reason that they work hard is so that they can provide a good life for the people that they love and care about. And that's more important to them than the money. But once the family is put aside, which is their primary concern, then then the money is everything. And they're very, very fastidious about every single penny. I worked for a man many years ago, and I learned a lot from him. He died worth $800 million. He started with nothing, and he built an $800 million fortune. He ran 200 corporations. He was the smartest man I ever met. He could read a contract and from the back forward. He could flip it like this and quote it back to you 6 months later. I mean, I'd have to carry it around to reread it today. He could quote it back to me and point out things in it, and he could even he would go and he would put a stop and go back to that page, and he said, this is the clause we need to negotiate. I mean, this guy was smart. He died worth $800 million, but you know, nothing gave him greater pleasure than to sit at the counter of the delicatessen up the street and eat a cheap pastrami sandwich for lunch. This guy owned the building, he owned the street, he owned most of the property, and he loved to save money. And what I found, he lived in a beautiful home in Palm Springs, he had beautiful homes, he had a private jet that was at his call at all times, but when it came to thinking about expenditures, he was very, very frugal. Now, my friends who wrote The Millionaire Next Door said that there's one quality that seems to be characteristic of all self-made millionaires. It's frugality, is that they save their money. They're very careful with their money until they're wealthy. He said people who earn an enormous amount of money, in Texas they call them big hat, no cattle. In other words, they make a lot of money, but they're broke. They got no cattle. They got a big hat, but no cattle. These people spend their money as fast as they make it. You know that most of the people who look like they have money don't really have any?